Buddhist Outlook on Daily Life, 5. Nina van Gorkom. 7. The Buddha. In the Buddhist temples of Thailand we see people paying respect in front of the Buddha statue by kneeling and touching the floor 3 times with their hands and head. Those who have just arrived in Thailand may wonder whether this way of paying respect is a form of prayer or whether it has another meaning. Buddhists in Thailand express in this way their confidence in the 3 gems: the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. They take their refuge in the 3 gems. The first gem is the Buddha. When people take their refuge in the Buddha, they say the following words in plea: Buddha Saragachmai, which means, I go for refuge to the Buddha. What is the meaning of the word Buddha? The illustrator of ultimate meaning, the Paramatthajatak, a commentary to the minor readings, Khuddaka Nikaya, explains, in the commentary to the 3 refuges, the meaning of the word Buddha. And this is said: Buddha, in what sense Buddha? He is the discoverer, Bujayat, of the truths, thus he is enlightened, Buddha. He is the enlightener, Bodhat, of the generation, thus he is enlightened. He is enlightened by omniscience, enlightened by seeing all, enlightened without being led by others. He is quite without defilement, thus he is enlightened. He has travelled by the path that goes in only one way, thus he is enlightened. He alone discovered the peerless complete enlightenment, thus he is enlightened. Buddha, this is not a name made by a mother, made by a father. This name, Buddha, which signifies final liberation, is a realistic description of enlightened ones, blessed ones, together with their obtainment of omniscient knowledge at the root of an enlightenment tree. The Buddha is the discoverer of the truth. What is the truth the Buddha discovered all by himself? He is enlightened by omniscience, enlightened by seeing all. The commentary to the Paramatthajatak says, he had developed the wisdom to see and to experience the truth of all things. Everything in life is impermanent and thus it is unsatisfactory. People suffer from old age, sickness, and death. In spite of this truth, people still cling to the things in and around themselves. Thus they are not able to see reality. The Buddha understood through direct experience that all phenomena which arise fall away immediately. He did not cling to anything at all. For us it is difficult to experience the truth of impermanence. Nama and Rupa arise and fall away all the time, but one cannot have direct understanding of impermanence if one's wisdom is not developed. It is difficult to be aware often of realities when they appear and to realize what they are. Only Nama and Rupa, phenomena which are impermanent and not self. The more we realize how difficult it is to see things as they are, the more we understand that the Buddha's wisdom must have been of the highest degree. The Buddha taught that everything in life is dukkha. Dukkha literally means pain, misery, or suffering. However, the experience of the truth of dukkha is much deeper than a feeling of sorrow or contemplation about suffering. It is the direct understanding of the impermanence of the namas and rupas in our life and the realization that none of these phenomena is true happiness. Some people may think that pondering over this truth is already the experience of the truth of dukkha. However, one does not have the real understanding of the truth if one merely thinks about it. When Pa has been developed to the degree that the arising and falling away of Nama and Rupa are directly understood, one will come to realize the truth of dukkha. Then one will gradually learn to be less attached to Nama and Rupa. In the Greater Discourse of a Full Moon, Middle-Length Sayings 3, number 109, we read that the Buddha, while he was staying near Svath, in the palace of Migra's mother, in the eastern monastery, asked the monks, "What do you think about this, monks? Is material shape permanent or impermanent?" "Impermanent, revered sir." "But is what is impermanent painful or is it pleasant?" "Painful, revered sir." "And is it right to regard that which is impermanent, suffering, liable to change, as, this is mine, this am I, this is myself?" "No, revered sir." The Buddha asked the same question about mental phenomena. Everything in our life is impermanent. Also what we call happiness is impermanent. It is only a mental phenomenon which arises and then falls away immediately. How can that which arises and falls away as soon as it has arisen be real happiness? Everything in life, even happiness, is therefore dukkha or unsatisfactory. What arises and falls away should not be taken for self, everything is in it or non-self. Impermanence, dukkha, and in it are three aspects of the truth of all realities within ourselves and around ourselves. It may take us a long time before we can experience things as they really are. The only way to develop direct understanding of the truth is being aware of the nama and rupa which appear, such as, for example, seeing, hearing or thinking at this moment. The Buddha was always mindful and clearly conscious. He did not have ignorance of any reality. When we realize how difficult mindfulness is, we deeply respect the great wisdom of the Buddha. The Buddha is called the Awakened One, because he is awakened to the truth. We read in the Discourse with Sela, Middle Length Sayings 2, number 92, that the Buddha said to Sela, "What is to be known is known by me, and to be developed is developed, what is to be got rid of has been got rid of, therefore, Brahman, am I awake?" The Buddha had, by his enlightenment, attained the greatest purity. He had completely eradicated all defilements. The Buddha attained enlightenment during his life in this world. He taught others to develop in their daily lives the wisdom which can completely eradicate defilements and all latent tendencies. The more we know about our own defilements, including the more subtle defilements, and the more we see how deeply rooted the clinging to the concept of self is, the more will we realize the high degree of the Buddha's purity. The Buddha was full of compassion for everybody. The fact that the Buddha was free from defilements did not mean that he wanted to dissociate himself from the world. On the contrary, he wanted to help all beings who still had defilements to find the path leading to true understanding. People are inclined to think that Buddhism makes people neglectful of their duties towards others and that it makes them self-centered. This is not so. Buddhism enables one more fully to perform one's duties and to serve other people in a more unselfish way. The Buddha attained enlightenment for the happiness of the world. In the Gradual Sayings, Book of the Ones, ch. 13, we read that the Buddha said to the monks, "Monks, there is one person whose birth into the world is for the welfare of many folk, for the happiness of many folk. Who is born out of compassion for the world, for the profit, welfare, and happiness of devas and mankind. Who is that one person? It is a Tathagata, 15, who is a Raha, a fully enlightened one. This, monks, is that one person." The more one understands the Buddha's teachings, the more one is impressed by his compassion for everybody. The Buddha knew what it meant to be free from all sorrow. Therefore he helped other beings to attain this freedom as well. One can help people by kindness, by generosity, and in many other ways. The most precious thing one can give others is to show them the way to true peace. The Buddha proved his great compassion to people by teaching them Dhamma. When Buddhists pay respect to the Buddha statue, they do not pray to a Buddha in heaven, since the Buddha passed away completely. Buddhists pay respect to the Buddha statue because they think with deep reverence and gratefulness of the Buddha's virtues, of his wisdom, his purity, and his compassion. When we speak of virtues, we think of good qualities in someone's character. There are many degrees of good qualities, however. When the wisdom of him who follows the Eightfold Path is developed to such an extent that he can attain enlightenment, then his way of life will have become purer and his compassion for others deeper. Wisdom is not only theoretical knowledge of the truth, but realizing the truth in one's life as well. The virtues of the Buddha were developed to such degree that he not only attained enlightenment without the help of a teacher, but was also able to teach the truth to others. So that by following the right path they could attain enlightenment. There were other Buddhas before the Buddha Gautama. All Buddhas find the truth by themselves, without being led by others. However, there are two different kinds of Buddhas. The Samsambhuddha, that is, a universal Buddha or perfectly enlightened one, 16, and the Upakshika Buddha or silent Buddha. The Samsambhuddha has found the truth and is able to teach others as well the way to enlightenment. The Upakshika Buddha has not accumulated virtues to the same extent as the Samsambhuddha, and thus he is not as qualified in teaching others as the Samsambhuddha. The Buddha Gautama was a Samsambhuddha. There cannot be more than one Samsambhuddha in a Buddha era. Neither can there be in that era Upakshika Buddhas. The Buddha era in which we are living will be terminated when the Buddha's teachings have disappeared completely. The Buddha foretold that the further one is away from the time he lived, the more his teaching will be misinterpreted and corrupted. His teachings will disappear completely, and then there will be a next Buddha, and so the next Buddha era. The next Buddha will discover the truth again, and he will teach other beings the way to enlightenment. Buddhists take their refuge in the Buddha. What does the word refuge mean? The Paramathajodic commentary speaks about the meaning of the word refuge. When people have gone for refuge, then by that very going for refuge it combats, dispels, carries off, and stops their fear, anguish, suffering, risk of, unhappy destination, on rebirth, and defilement. The going for refuge is the arising of cognizance with confidence therein and giving preponderance thereto, from which defilement is eliminated and eradicated, and which occurs in the mode of taking that as the highest value. Going for refuge to the Buddha does not mean that the Buddha can eradicate people's defilements. We read in the Mahaparinabhasutta, Dialogues of the Buddha 2, number 73, that, before his passing away, the Buddha said to Nanda, "Now I am frail, Nanda, old, aged, far gone in years. This is my 80th year and my life is spent. Therefore, Nanda, be an island to yourself, a refuge to yourself, seeking no external refuge. With Dhamma as your island, Dhamma as your refuge, seeking no other refuge." The Buddha then explained that one takes one's refuge in the Dhamma by developing the 4 applications of mindfulness, that is, being mindful of Dhamma and Rupa in order to develop right understanding of them. This is the eightfold path which leads to enlightenment. One can depend only on oneself in following this path, not on anyone else. The Buddha said that the Dhamma and the Vinaya would be his successor. Today the Buddha is no longer with us, but we take our refuge in the Buddha when we have confidence in his teachings and we consider it the most important thing in life to practice what he taught. 8. The Dhamma. The second of the 3 gems Buddhists take their refuge in is the Dhamma. When they take their refuge in the Dhamma they say, Dhamma saragachmai, which means, I go for refuge to the Dhamma. What does the word Dhamma mean? Most people think that Dhamma only means doctrine, but the word Dhamma has several more meanings. Dhamma means everything which is real, no matter whether it is good or bad. Dhamma comprises, for example, seeing, sound, greed and honesty. We cannot take our refuge in every Dhamma, for instance we cannot take our refuge in greed or hate. Can we take refuge in our good deeds? The effect of a good deed is never lost, since each good deed will bring its fruit accordingly. In the Kindred Sayings, I, Sagtvagga, CHI, Part 8, Slaughter Suttas, PAR 5. We read that a Deva, divine being, asks the Buddha how a man should live so that he does not have to fear life in another world. The Buddha answered, "Let him but rightly set both speech and mind, and by the body work no evil things. If in a house well stored with goods he dwell, let him have faith." 17. Be gentle, share his good with others, and be affable of speech. In these 4 qualities if he persist, he need not fear life in another world. A good deed can cause a happy rebirth, such as birth in the human plane of existence, or in a heavenly plane, and in that case one need not fear life in another world. However, even a heavenly plane is not a permanent refuge. Life in a heavenly plane may last very long, but it is not permanent. There may be rebirth in unhappy planes after one's lifespan in a happy plane is terminated, depending on which of one's accumulated good and bad deeds, Kusala Kamma and Akusala Kamma, will produce result. 18. Each deed will bring its own result. A wholesome deed will bring a pleasant result and an unwholesome deed will bring an unpleasant result. Some deeds may produce a result in this life, other deeds may produce result in a future life. The accumulated unwholesome and wholesome deeds may cause births in different planes of existence at different times. In the Kindred Sayings, I, Sagtvagga, Ch 3, Kosala, Part 2, PAR 10, Childless, we read about someone who gave alms to a Pakska Buddha. Because of this good deed he was reborn in heaven 7 times and after that in the human plane, which is also Kusala Vipka. However, he killed his nephew because he wanted his brother's fortune. This ill deed caused him to be reborn in hell. Thus he received the results of Kusala Kama and of Akusala Kama at different times. So long as all defilements and latent tendencies have not been eradicated, there will be rebirth in different planes of existence. Even those who are reborn in heavenly planes still have defilements and latent tendencies. Birth is sorrow, no matter in what plane, birth will be followed by death. We read in the Kindred Sayings, 2, Nidnavaga, ch. 15, Part 1, Par 3, Tears, that the Buddha, while he was in the Jeta Grove, near Svatth, said to the monks, "Incalculable is the beginning, monks, of this faring on. The earliest point is not revealed of the running on, faring on, of beings cloaked in ignorance, tied to craving. As to that, what do you think, monks? Which is greater, the flood of tears shed by you crying and weeping as you fare on? Run on this long while, united as you have been with the undesirable, separated as you have been from the desirable, or the waters in the four seas. For many a long day, monks, have you experienced the death of mother, of son, of daughter, have you experienced the ruin of kinsfolk, of wealth, the calamity of disease. Greater is the flood of tears shed by you crying and weeping over one and all of these, as you fare on. Run on this many a long day, united with the undesirable, separated from the desirable, than are the waters in the four seas. Only when all defilements have been eradicated will there be no cause any more which can produce a next life. That is the end of rebirth, and that means the end of all sorrow. Nibbana is the end of rebirth because Nibbana is the end of defilements." 19. Therefore one can truly take one's refuge in Nibbana. In the suttas, Nibbana is called the deathless. We read in the Kindred Sayings, v. Mahavaga, Book I, Kindred Sayings on the Way, I, Ignorance, Par 7, that, when the Buddha was at Svatth, a monk said to him, "The deathless. The deathless, Lord, is the saying. Pray, Lord, what is the deathless, and what the way to the deathless?" "That which is the destruction of greed, the destruction of hatred, the destruction of ignorance, monk, that is called the deathless. This same Aryan Eightfold Way is the way to the deathless. Nibbana is the Dhamma we can take our refuge in. Nibbana is included in the second gem. Nibbana is a gem of the highest value, because there is nothing to be preferred to complete freedom from all sorrow, from birth, old age, and death. Nibbana is real. If one has not yet attained enlightenment, one has not experienced Nibbana. But if one follows the right path, one may realize Nibbana, even during this life. Nibbana is the deathless, it is the end of the cycle of birth and death. People may think that is not very desirable not to be born again. It does not make much sense to speculate about Nibbana. If we have not attained enlightenment, we cannot imagine what Nibbana is like. At the present time we can experience our defilements, we can experience the sorrow which is caused in the world by greed, hatred, and ignorance. We read in the Kindred Sayings, I, Sagtvaga, ch. 3, Kosala, Part 3, Par 3, the world, that, when the Buddha was at Svatth, King Pasenadi asked him, "How many kinds of things, Lord, that happen in the world, make for trouble, for suffering, for distress?" "3 things, sire, happen of that nature." "What are the 3? "Greed, hatred, and ignorance, these 3 make for trouble, for suffering, for distress. Who does not want to be free from suffering, caused by greed, hatred, and ignorance? Those who want to become free from all defilements take refuge in Nibbana." What is the path leading to Nibbana? Nibbana cannot be attained merely by wishing for it. Can people attain Nibbana by doing good deeds? Even when one performs good deeds, there can still be the idea of self. When one does good deeds but there is no development of right understanding of realities, the belief in a self and other defilements cannot be eradicated. Thus, good deeds alone, without right understanding, cannot lead to Nibbana. Only Vipassana can lead to the attainment of Nibbana, to the eradication of defilements. One may wonder whether it is necessary, in addition to developing Vipassana, to do other good deeds. There is no self who can choose to perform a particular kind of kusala. The Buddha encouraged us to perform all kinds of kusala for which there is an opportunity. Sometimes there is an opportunity for dina, sometimes for sila, at other times for samatha or for vipassana. Through the development of vipassana we will come to know our defilements, even the more subtle ones. Then we will see the danger of defilements more clearly and realize the benefit of developing the path leading to their eradication. If we observe the precepts or do other kinds of good deeds with mindfulness of Dhamma and Rupa, we will learn that there is no self who performs kusala and thus kusala will be purer. However, vipassana will not immediately transform one's character. It is most important to develop right understanding of both kusala and akusala as only conditioned realities, as non-self. The development of vipassana takes many lives, because ignorance is deeply accumulated. Most of the time we are ignorant and forgetful of the Dhamma and Rupa which appear now through one of the five senses or through the mind door. We are used to thinking of realities which have fallen away already a long time ago or of those which may present themselves in the future. We should not expect to learn awareness in one day or even within 1 year. We cannot tell how much progress is made each day, because wisdom develops very gradually. We read in the Kindred Sayings, 3, Kandvaga, Middle 50, Part 5, Par 101, adds Handel, that the Buddha, when he was at Svatth, said to the monks, "By knowing, monks, by seeing is, I declare, the destruction of the Savas, 20, not by not knowing, by not seeing." Suppose, monks, in a monk who lives neglectful of self-training there should arise this wish. Oh that my heart were freed from the Savas without grasping! Yet for all that his heart is not freed from the Savas. What is the cause of that? It must be said that it is his neglect of self-training. Self-training in what? In the 4 applications of mindfulness. In the Aryan Eightfold Path. In the monk who dwells attentive to self-training there would not arise such a wish as this. Oh that my heart were freed from the Savas without grasping! And yet his heart is freed from them. What is the cause of that? It must be said it is his attention to self-training. Just as if, monks, when a carpenter or carpenter's apprentice looks upon his adze handle and sees thereon his thumb mark and his finger marks he does not thereby know. So and so much of my adze handle has been worn away today, so much yesterday, so much at other times. But he knows the wearing away of it just by its wearing away. Even so monks, the monk who dwells attentive to self-training has not this knowledge. So and so much of the Savas has been worn away today, so much yesterday, so much at other times. But he knows the wearing away of them just by their wearing away. When wisdom is highly developed, Nibbana can be realized. There are 4 stages of enlightenment and at each stage Nibbana is experienced and defilements are progressively eradicated. Defilements are so deeply rooted that they can only be eradicated stage by stage. At the first stage the wrong view of self is eradicated, but there are still attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Only at the last stage of enlightenment, the stage of the Arahat, are all defilements and latent tendencies eradicated completely. When one has attained the stage of the Arahat there will be no more rebirth. The Siddha which experiences Nibbana is a supramundane or Lokuttara Siddha. There are 2 types of Siddha for each of the 4 stages of enlightenment, Lokuttara Kusala Siddha and its result, the fruition consciousness, thus there are 8 types of Lokuttara Siddha. Nibbana and the 8 types of Lokuttara Siddha which experience Nibbana are included in the second gem, the Dhamma to which one goes for refuge, 21. When we take our refuge in the second gem, we consider it the goal of our life to develop the wisdom which can eventually eradicate all defilements. There is still another Dhamma included in the second gem, namely the Dhamma in the sense of the Buddha's teachings. We can take our refuge in the Buddha's teachings. The teachings can lead people to the truth if they study them with right understanding and if they practice according to what is taught. We should study the whole of the Buddha's teachings. If one studies only a few suttas one will not clearly understand what the Buddha taught. Many times a sutta merely alludes to things which are explained in detail in other parts of the Dipika, the three collections of the scriptures. It is useful to study the commentaries to the Dipika as well, because they explain the Buddha's teachings. The teachings are our guide since the Buddha passed away. We read in the Discourse to Gopakamoggallana, Middle Length Sayings 3, number 108, that after the Buddha's passing away a Brahmin asked Nanda what the cause was of the unity of the monks. He said, "Is there, good Nanda, even one monk who was designated by the good Gautama, saying, 'After my passing this one will be your support, and to whom you might have recourse now?' There is not even one monk, Brahmin, who was designated by the Lord who knew and saw, perfected one, fully self-awakened one, saying, 'After my passing this one will be your support, and to whom we might have recourse now.' But is there even one monk, Nanda, who is agreed upon by the order and designated by a number of monks who are elders, saying, 'After the Lord's passing this one will be our support, and to whom you might have recourse now'? There is not even one monk, Brahmin, who is agreed upon by the order, and to whom we might have recourse now. But as you are thus without support, good Nanda, what is the cause of your unity? We Brahmin are not without support, we have a support, Brahmin. Dhamma is the support." In the Gradual Sayings, Book of the Threes, ch. 6, par 60, Sangrava, we read that the Buddha spoke to the Brahmin Sangrava about three kinds of marvels. The marvel of superpower, such as diving into the earth or walking on water, the marvel of thought reading and the marvel of teaching. The Buddha asked him which marvel appealed to him most. Sangrava answered, "Of these marvels, Master Gautama, the marvel of superpower seems to me of the nature of an illusion. Then again as to the marvel of thought reading. This also, Master Gautama, seems to me of the nature of an illusion. But as to the marvel of teaching, of these three marvels this one appeals to me as the more wonderful and excellent. The teachings are the greatest miracle because they can change a person's life. Through the Dhamma one is able to follow the path which eventually leads to the end of all sorrow, to the end of the cycle of birth and death. The Buddha's teachings do not appeal to everyone. Many people find it difficult to think in a way which is different from the way they used to think. They do not like the truth of non-self. They want to be master of their mind even though they can find out that this is impossible. The Buddha knew how difficult it is for people to change their way of thinking. In the Discourse to Vakagata on Fire, Middle Length Sayings 2, number 72. We read that the Buddha, when he was staying near Svath, in the Jeta Grove, taught Dhamma to Vakagata who had wrong views. Vakagata, after having brought forward his wrong views and having listened to the Buddha's reply, said that he was at a loss and bewildered on account of what the Buddha had said to him. The Buddha replied, "You ought to be at a loss, Vaka, you ought to be bewildered. For, Vaka, this Dhamma is deep, difficult to see, difficult to understand, peaceful, excellent, beyond dialectic, subtle, intelligible to the wise. But it is hard for you who are of another view, another allegiance, another objective, of a different observance, and under a different teacher. Dhamma is deep and difficult to understand. People cannot understand Dhamma if they still cling to their own views. If they would really study the teachings and apply what they have learnt, they could find out for themselves whether one can take one's refuge in the Dhamma. When we have verified in our life that what the Buddha taught is reality, even if we cannot yet experience everything he taught, we do not want to exchange our understanding for anything else in life. If we develop right understanding of realities, we will have Dhamma as a support. Thus we take refuge in the Dhamma.